My fiance laughs too because she's like, I don't need your answers anymore, AJ. I know you have the answers.
Just listen, dude.
I just wanted to tell you that my boss is annoying me. That's all that matters. I don't need to hear about emotional bids and what you would do in my situation.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Sanzano, host of Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, a multifamily mentor, the coach, chef, father of 6, best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbo. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, I'm doing good. Where are you today, Jake?
I'm on the road, big dog, in Lexington. Then we're headed to the Louisville, then down to Nashville, and back to Knox. So we're doing a big square, checking out the properties, looking at some deals, and kicking down some doors. You know how we do it.
You know, Jake, I love you. What is today, Jake?
It's your 50th birthday, man. I don't know if that's what you're looking for or not, but I haven't wished you a happy birthday yet.
I was looking for a little love from you, bro. Yes, it's
man.
Time
That's
to
not
make
what
it
we're
happy.
about, man. This is we just kick it, man. We make it happen, and we celebrate later. So
That's right. So I'm glad you're out there.
did you just ask me to give you a happy birthday? Were you
I
feeling?
did.
Were you
I
not
was
feeling
looking
the
for a
love,
little,
man, or what?
I didn't feel the love this morning. I got texts and emails
I
from
know.
everybody else.
I know what's going on. All right.
So I'm glad. Listen, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. One of our core values is people first, and the other one is make it happen. And we've got two MIHs on the podcast today. I would not miss this for the world, Mr. Stenziano. So let's get this thing rolling.
That's what I'm doing. So we got two very special guests today. Today's guests are AJ Harbinger and Johnny Dzubak, hosts of the Art of Charm podcast. I mean, this sounds special already, Gino. And it's a company that helps ordinary people become extraordinary. AJ and Johnny teach people from all over the world how to create, develop, and maintain top business and personal relationships. Now, I know I need this, so I'm gonna be all ears today. So without further ado, AJ and Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us, guys.
Yes, thank you.
So, Johnny, what I want you to do is I want you to share your story of how you got into personal development from where you were, because it's really important. And I want everyone to actually listen, because, this is one of the skills that we need to develop, and we're going to discuss this throughout the show. So take it away, Johnny.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Pittsburgh, blue-collar family. Mom was a hairdresser. Dad was a factory worker. He made car windshields at Pittsburgh plate glass. And at 21, I moved to North Carolina to begin my music career. I grew up in a household where my dad on the weekends played in the bar band down the street, and they would play 4-6 hour sets. I used to go with my dad to those bars as a teenager to roadie, run sound for him. And of course that affected me heavily, wanting to be like my father. And the household was very supportive in the arts. And so music was an easy thing for me to to get obsessed with early on. I moved to North Carolina to begin my music career. In the 90s, there was a budding music scene going on there in Chapel Hill, Raleigh-Durham area. And through my 20s, I was touring, managing rock and roll clubs and bars, and just living the life, having a blast. However, as my 20s were coming to a close, and the 90s at that, the music industry as a whole began to change with all the new technology that was coming out. And when I talk about this and I think back, I laugh because even so much has changed since then. I mean, we're discussing Friendster and LimeWire and MySpace, and
Metallica revolting.
Oh, it was a big deal, and so the world that I grew up in, the music world of waiting in line at the mall, buying the record, so excited to get home, like all these things that made rock and roll very appealing to me were changing rapidly. And not only were they changing, no one knew what it was going to turn into. No one could have predicted what it looks like now. It was a rapidly changing and a lot of uncertainty. And also, the music that I grew up wanting to play, I'm a rock and roll fan at heart. Where Little Richard had just passed. I'm a big Chuck Berry fan, the Rolling Stones, the Who, like all that traditional blues, jazz, country fused rock and roll music wasn't very popular as it had been through my whole life. So coming at the end of my 20s, looking into my 30s, I had some hard answers that needed questions. I had some hard questions that needed answered about my life and what I wanted to do with it. And I turned to self-development as an opportunity to learn about myself and give myself an opportunity to really think about what it is that I wanted to be doing as for me, I felt like as I was becoming an adult. I gave my 20s to my
Do we
youth.
ever become adults? I don't know. Is that just a
No,
thing or what?
I like to say that, but AJ's like, yeah, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
We just have more responsibility, I think, is all it comes down to, right?
Yeah, we all like to stay young at heart and mind, right?
So, Johnny, how did you meet AJ then?
Well, through my getting obsessed with the next phase of my life and self-development, I got a job working in DC on the weekends in a small self-development company that was helping guys talk to girls. And through that, just being better men as an opportunity to be more attractive. And I would go up on the weekends, do some working, chat with the young guys, have some fun. It was like, to me, it was an opportunity to be a mentor. And I was going through a lot of changes in my life, and it was just fun to be around other people who were experiencing those same questions and answers and enjoyed self-development.
Hang on, I gotta jump in here. Is this before there was a Hitch? Like, are you Hitch, the movie with Will Smith? Is this what we're talking about here, or did I miss the boat?
I guess that was all kind of sort of the same time, I guess. And so AJ, I had started the podcast, and it was doing its thing. And they were just taking other programs to see what was out there, what was in this space, and have an opportunity to chat with some of these people who were doing these things and talk about it on the show. It was quite early in the podcast infancy, and we had met on one of those programs.
So AJ, Ph.D. in cancer biology. I'm a pizza guy going into multifamily. That's pretty strange. How do you go from that space to what you're doing right now?
Well, I have to add the asterisk of a dropout. So when I met Johnny, I was studying for my PhD.
Okay.
I had hit a wall in my graduate school career because I didn't have the social skills necessary to politic, to really manage the social capital that goes into advancing your career. My dad was an introvert, blue collar guy, grew up in a single parent home. And I never really learned the power of networking, building relationships, or really even extroversion as an introvert. So I was struggling in my graduate school career because at this point, it wasn't just about hard work. It was about who you know, persuading people, having some influence to get your work published. And that set me down a rabbit hole of trying to develop myself, develop the skills to talk to women, but also develop the skills to talk to my lab mates, impress my boss, and grow my influence. So I started this little podcast in my basement with a buddy, and it started to get some popularity. And, I laugh now because 15 years ago, my family thought a podcast was an insane idea.
Wait, you guys started this 15 years ago? I didn't even know there was podcasts 15 years ago.
Exactly. Try explaining that to your parents.
First mover advantage, boy. There you go. Cheers to you guys.
So as the podcast was growing, it became clear that a lot of our fans and listeners wanted some help and support in the same areas that we were looking for it. And as Johnny said, we were trying to partner with another company or two to help support our audience. And I met Johnny, and originally Johnny and I didn't really get along. As many of you could probably imagine from watching the video, Johnny's full on rock and roll. I'm the buttoned up analytical science guy. And that first weekend, although Johnny and I didn't really connect, I saw Johnny's love for coaching and supporting the clients who are going through and having this amazing experience. So as we were trying to transition to New York City and start the coaching wing of the company and the podcast, we reached out to Johnny, and he took the plunge with us and built the company from scratch up in New York City.
So what are some of the mistakes you see when people try to network? Like you said, you didn't have that networking skill. What do you see out there? Because for us, I always think you have to have expectations set. You have to go to somewhere to network and not talk to everybody, but have some expectations, have some goals, and be able to give some value to others. What do you see out there?
Well, the first and biggest thing is we make it about ourselves. Mm-hmm. So often we go into networking events and we think about, what can I get out of this person? How can this person help me? And unfortunately with that, a lot of us write people off. If we see, oh, they're not in real estate, or, oh, they don't do the same things that I'm interested in, so let me go talk to someone else. And in actuality, we need to flip that on its head, and we need to focus on being more generous in any of those situations. The more generous we are with our time, our resources, our knowledge, even if we're not in the same industry, that's how we grow our social capital. And what I found as I started working on developing myself was a lot of this is going on invisibly. So if you're not networking, you're being left behind, because the top jobs, the top careers that we're all after, those doors are open by someone else opening it for you, someone else introducing you to that opportunity, someone else telling you about an investment deal. And I grew up where my dad didn't talk about networking. He didn't talk about building relationships. So I really had to start from the ground floor of what does it take to be that charismatic, confident person that lights up the room. But to work on that, I had to shift my focus externally. So not thinking about what I'm saying, what I'm doing, how I'm showing up, and put all of my focus on listening, adding value to the conversation, appreciating those around me. And what's funny about that is the more you do that, the better you actually feel. It's kind of counterintuitive. We think, oh, that's going to sap my energy. Being generous, people are going to take advantage of me. But doing small favors for people in your life actually fire you up and lift you up, as well as lifting up those other people. And we realized over the last decade that our network now is so diverse because we don't look at it as networking. We look at it as giving value to others.
I got to write that down, because everyone out there, write this down. You don't look at it as networking. Look at it as giving value to others. And I can totally relate with you, AJ. Every time a student sends me an email that they closed a deal, or they've done a great lesson, or they've got a great, I get really excited, man. I get fired up. It's like I'm doing it myself. It's like, what are my children doing it? And it's really hard to make people understand that. And I don't have to worry about the money anymore. I'm financially free from that perspective. So I'm not focused on the money anymore. I wish I'd been doing that 15 years ago, because I would have gotten there a lot sooner. Like you said, it's counterintuitive and it's freaking annoying. That's why life is annoying, right? That's amazing. Johnny, let's talk about the listening aspect. You were talking about listening. I know there's a subjective form of listening. Let's go over the listening, and how can the listeners here become better at that skill? Because that is really important when it comes to networking.
Well, it was something that you said earlier that I had a chuckle over when you were chatting about telling your daughter to put the phone down, make sure you're asking questions, be present. The devices that we have, these are now becoming a crutch of any time that we're nervous, we have any anxiety. And if we're going out into a venue or meeting people where there's tension and pressure put on us, or we just don't know this person, there's going to be some anxiety because you're walking into uncharted territory. You don't know how this person's going to react.
Mm-hmm.
Our phone now is the crutch that we clutch, we grab, the first thing that we pull out when we feel this way.
It's a blanket to hide under, right? Like, I'm going to go away.
100%. And it becomes this crutch. However, it's taking away from us connecting, from us expressing ourselves,
mm-hmm.
and developing relationships, because it is now this tool that when we're uncomfortable, we can just turn it on. We could stare at it.
Dopamine and move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the actuality, the real nutrition when it comes to relationships is built from expressing yourself and being accepted, appreciated, and approved. These are all the things that we need in order to feel good about ourselves. We cannot get them from our phone. In fact, what we're getting from our phone is if you're hungry, it's a McDonald's cheeseburger. It's going to fill you up. It'll allow you to feel okay in a moment, but it's not very nutritional.
Mm-hmm.
And so from our interactions and getting to know people and putting up some risk of expressing ourselves, this is where the true good feelings and fulfilling interactions come from. And being present in those interactions is the only way that we're going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And listening is a large part of that, because you have to sit there and you have to be focused on the other person. We have taken that of getting comfortable with that away from ourselves. I always make this silly analogy, but I can't think of a better one for it. 30 years ago, you would go to the bank, you would get in line, and you would deal with yourself, and you would think about what's going on in your world.
Mm-hmm.
Those little moments are gone. If you're even going to the bank, you get in line, the first thing you do is pull out your phone and back into the screen. And talk about the messaging and the manipulation and the influence that's being thrust at you every time you look into that thing. And I don't think a lot of people are willing to admit what's really going on, but it's all playing a role in our psychology.
Mm-hmm. So I would say to everybody, I heard this from one of my mentors, to be interesting, you need to be interested. It's such a powerful thing, right? And I think what you both said is really true. Go to a party and just listen to people, and you would be amazed. It's what's in it for me. Everyone wants to tell you their life story. Just listen, and by the end of the conversation, they're going to think you're the greatest person since sliced bread. I mean, they're going to think you're the most interesting person, which is like another counterintuitive thing. And I think, Johnny, also, I think silence is painful for a lot of people. I'm a New Yorker. Silence to me is painful. I speak fast. I talk fast. I think fast. I've got a little ADD going on. That's why me and Jake, we love each other because we just can't sit still. But silence is really golden. I think we have to work on that also.
Gino, let me jump in here. Sorry, one second. When I want to unpack what he just said a little bit more, because when you are waiting in line at the bank and you immediately whip out the phone, you're taking away your presence and anything that you can do to even think or work on yourself, and you're playing someone else's game. We call it the media merry-go-round. Because especially if you get on Twitter or Facebook, everyone else that's posting, not everyone, but a lot of people have some sort of agenda, and you're feeding in and basically becoming a part of that agenda.
Yeah.
Don't think you're not. A lot of people are posting stuff to get you to think or do something, whether it's marketing, political, whatever it may be. So you're taking time where you could maybe, look inside, think about what do I have to do next, think with yourself, versus you're getting on the merry-go-round for someone else. So I just want everyone to be very aware of that. I have
a challenge for the audience.
Yes, hit it.
Go to the next event with your phone on airplane mode.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard for them.
Blanket.
Yeah, that's going to be hard for people, right? That's going to be a really tough challenge.
That is how we focus on our presence. And there's 5 levels to listening, and many people don't realize this. And this is something that I continue to hone. And, to your point, I was at a networking event about a decade ago, and there was this guy there who asked the greatest questions of everyone in the group. And by the end of the weekend, no one knew a single thing about him, but everyone was reaching out to him because he used curiosity and great listening to draw us in. It was not him pitching himself and selling how amazing he was. Come to find out, he was actually a billionaire, and he didn't want to talk about himself. He wanted to focus on others, and he was completely present. And that's when I was like, I want to be that guy. That guy's charismatic. He doesn't need to sell himself. He doesn't need to talk about how amazing he is or all of his possessions like many of us feel that pressure. So when we think about listening, the first level is yourself. And many of us don't even want to listen to ourselves. We don't want to listen to that voice in our head. We want that distraction. We want to see someone else's highlight reel. But that's the first level. And many of us who feel anxiety, we get stuck in our head. We get stuck in our own voice. The second level is simply the content that the other person's sharing. Facts, data, details, where they live, what their job is. The third level is actually the context. So what do we need to know about that content? Where is it happening? And what is the emotion behind it? The fourth level is actually what's unsaid. And this goes to your point about marketing, right? When it comes to marketing, we're focusing on certain things and we're not focusing on other things. And the best listeners can tell when someone is leaving details out, when they're not sharing something purposely. And that's what we want to explore with our curiosity. And then the fifth and final is the ultimate meaning or the intent behind it. Why is this person sharing this with me? Do they want to grow a relationship? Are they trying to sell me something? Do they want to connect on a deeper level with me? And those are skills that we have to hone through practice. And the first step is putting our phone on airplane and working on our presence. And over time, you're going to quiet that inner monologue. You're going to start picking up more content, and all of a sudden the context is going to come out. You're going to start hearing those emotional bids that Johnny was talking about. And the emotions are where we really connect with one another. I didn't grow up in New York. I'm not in real estate, but I want to have a great relationship with you guys. So if I fall back on my experiences and what I've accomplished and look for those similarities, well, I'm going to be pretty limited in the scope of people that I can connect with. But if I focus on the emotions, which are universal, and the emotions that you're sharing, and I share those times in my life that I felt those emotions, you're going to feel an instant connection to me, even if we're in different industries, even if we're at different places in our career.
I like that. So you talk about the curiosity. What about empathy? Do you think empathy plays a role into it when you're actually trying to talk with somebody and you don't want to sympathize with them, but how does empathy play into this?
Empathy is resonating on the emotions that are being shared with us, right?
I like
so
that.
In order to be empathetic, we have to pay attention to the emotions that are being shared. We can't just pay attention to the details. And that's why many of our clients who are in very technical or analytical jobs, where they're compensated for that skill set of deep analysis, running the numbers, building the airplane, being the doctor, the lawyer. These professional jobs, they lead to big payoffs in your career, but that skill set is very focused on analysis when listening. But guess what? You've never analyzed your friends. You've never connected through analysis or numbers. You've connected through emotions and feeling that other person's emotions, even if you haven't experienced those life events. And that's where the empathy is, that emotional resonance between two people.
I love that.
To separate those two things a little bit more, I like to say that the engineering work is so analytical, but the emotional side, it's all art form. It's self-expression. Socialization is an art. Those are two completely different skill sets. So if your job depends on a skill set of being analytical and problem solving, and we're maximizers and we love our work, we probably spend 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week in that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So the skills of expression and focusing on emotion and presence, those are atrophying. Those are not being developed. Those are just sitting there. And it's difficult for people to understand the difference between the two. However, in the podcast, I think we do a good job of explaining it, but one of the easiest ways is to take an improv class. And we have these classes running in our programs where the harder you try to analysis what's going on around you or problem solve your way through the exercise, the more difficult it's going to be. Whereas if you put on a different hat and go with how you're feeling and expressing yourself in the moment, which analytical problem solving people are not very willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they find themselves easily getting through the exercise, not only getting through it, but excelling.
Mm-hmm.
And once they see the difference between the two, they're like, wow, now I can separate and realize that I need to do some things in my everyday week to strengthen and work on this other skill set because it's not getting used. And it's really hard for people to understand how different those two things are.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You guys talk about listening now. Can one of you expand upon, you've got a great blog on your website, 6 tips for talking with anyone. I think it's important because we're all focused on the listening, but now how do we engage with somebody? Can you go over that with us?
Yeah. So number one, we have to understand ourselves at a deeper level. And as Johnny was saying, many of us don't even want to do that self-exploration and understand what we're truly passionate about, what excites us. Again, we often go to these events thinking about the other person and trying to read the other person and trying to get all this information and get them to like us. But we have to come to a level of understanding of ourselves, what our motivations are, what our core values are, what we're passionate about. And then piggybacking off of that, using questions to start conversation. You know, many of us, we try to go online and look up icebreakers or the perfect thing to say, and maybe even memorize some scripts, you know, to get through the first couple minutes of that small talk. But as long as we're focusing on the other person and having curiosity as that first step to building the conversation, we're going to be asking open-ended questions, not yes or no questions, but open-ended questions like, what do you do for work? How'd you find out about this event? Where are you from? You know, the same questions that we were talking about before the show kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
That creates an opportunity for the other person to start expressing themselves. Now, this is where we sometimes fall flat, and we see this in a lot of our clients and a lot of our listeners. They'll end up on a question train where all they do is ask questions of the other person, but they don't value their answer enough by sharing something about themselves, sharing a statement about themselves. Oh, I like that too. Oh, you know, I've never been to Nashville. Oh, that sounds so exciting to be working in real estate. How'd you get started there? They don't reference those statements about themselves. So over time, the other person, you know, 2-3 questions in, they start to feel like, well, do you even care about my answers?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing this small talk, right? And that's why so many people hate small talk, because we don't actually take it to big talk. Taking it to big talk is a combination of listening and making statements about yourself and expressing yourself, as Johnny's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a few of us have fear sharing our lack of experience. I've never done that. I've never heard of that. Oh, I don't know about that. And because of that, we hinder ourselves from having that path in conversation. But guess what? Many people light up when they get a chance to explain something to you for the first time or share something that's new for you. So
why do people get shamed? Like, I feel like when, there's times and it's almost when we're talking to attorneys, there's like something that like you don't know. And I just don't care anymore. I just be like, I don't know. Can you just explain that? And I think so many people are afraid to say that. I can't, maybe they just, because they think that they're supposed to know everything. But I think if we could, as a people, just say, I don't know, or I don't understand, please explain it. And then when the person's, I think to reciprocate, though, the person explaining it needs to get off the high horse and literally just try to educate, because that's when it gets weird, because sometimes the person explaining will almost try to like weave in this shame and superiority, where if we can just have conversations as people, things will be a lot better. And I think that's where a lot of issues come from, because we're not able to just explain. We want to take that superiority thing versus just being educators. That's been my experience, at least.
Well, and I completely agree. I would say start a podcast. That's how I got over it, was bringing on other experts and actually taking the time to listen to them and what they have to share, instead of coming in with my own agenda, speaking over them, cutting them off.
I think a lot of this also has to go with an experience in socialization. If you haven't been in a lot of situations where you've gotten comfortable with saying, you know what, I don't know, can you explain that to me or educate me? I'd like to learn more about what you have to offer. It's a very difficult thing for a lot of people who aren't very socialized, because they feel it's going to reflect on them poorly. It's only after gaining some experience in life and yourself of what you know and what you don't know that you become comfortable with that. And what we're seeing is socialization is getting more and more difficult. Like, we're all bullshitting right here now, but how closely to a real interaction is that? I can see all you guys. However, it's the pixel and the definition of the picture is not going to allow me to cover the micro expressions as well as I could if I wasn't in the room with you guys face to face. And also, we're only able to read each other from the shoulders up. There is a lot of communication that is going on around us when we're in the room that we're not getting here. So I wouldn't even know if this would be like, if this was an experience point in socialization, if it's a half a point or a quarter of a full point, but it's certainly not a full interaction.
Mm-hmm. So then what do you guys think about all this crap going on right now? I hate the Zoom calls and everything like this. I love going to events. I love talking to people.
Yeah.
As far as Dr. Fauci goes, you can shove it up his ass. I'm shaking your hand when I meet you guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you guys a hug. That's just the way I am. You know what I'm saying? I think anyone—
He's a hugger, folks.
Anything that says something like that, like you said, that's part of the interaction, right? So how are you telling your students now, which is, thank you for putting this in my mind, how do you overcome this? Because we're doing webinars and on these things, and it sucks. The interaction is not there. The experience isn't there. And people are saying it's the new norm. I hope it's not the new norm. I hope that I can go to events, and I hope I can go out to bars and hang out with people. What do you advise your students right now to do in this tough time to be able to actually network and to make those connections?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Touch builds trust. And that's why we look at handshakes and hugs and actual human interaction physically as a sign that we're building a relationship together. And of course, we can't do that over Zoom. So there's two ways to look at it, right? You can be frustrated and you can be upset, or you can use the tools to the best of your ability and realize that this is going to pass. We look at the 1918 Spanish flu, that passed, and we were back to hugging and holding hands. It's all going to pass. So how can we maximize it now? Well, the first thing I did before I even hopped on Zoom is I put up Do Not Disturb, and I made you guys full screen. I don't have emails popping. I don't have notifications. I don't have my phone in my pocket. But how many of us even show up to the Zoom fully present?
Mm-hmm.
Many of us aren't. We have the Zoom one window and our Gmail in the other window, and we're hoping that we can somehow juggle all of these things. But guess what? The level of understanding, of empathy, of listening we're talking about, it can't happen when there's all these distractions.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is what I'm trying to do here. Use your hands. Bring your hands up into the screen. It's so awkward to talk with your hands down below or in your pockets, and showing hands, again, builds trust.
Mm-hmm.
And many of us don't gesticulate on Zoom. We realize that, I may be moving my hands, but they're off screen. So we encourage all of our clients to use their hands to express themselves in the limited video space that we have. And the last piece is actually making that eye contact. I can't tell you how many times I'm on a Zoom and I get distracted the second I see someone's eyes go into corners of the screen and not just really glancing at each one of us in this screen. I've tried to spend time looking in everyone's eyes here because I know, again, that fosters trust in our communication. So there are simple things that we can do to allow us to be more present in the Zoom. But first and foremost, it's just understand that how rude would it be for me to have a laptop on my lap having this conversation if we were in person? Well, that's what you're doing with two windows open. That's what you're doing with, Zoom on one side and your phone messaging on the other side.
Jake,
AJ, how about when you're doing like a large Zoom call and you see the guy in his underwear and his wife will come in and he's on mute talking off to the side and you're trying to give it your all and present to these people. And it's like, guys, you're fucking killing me trying to get my
one of my favorite things
here.
to do is to pin his video on the screen and just take a pause and let's enjoy how
how's that BLT,
Frank?
Hey guys, I have a question I've been dying to ask here because this is my biggest pain point, and I hope you can help me here. So I am a very much a problem solver. Short, let's get to the point. Let's not live in the emotions too much. And my biggest problem when it comes to listening is that people will be talking and they'll present, this is what I have going on with myself. And then I just want to get right to the point and solve that person's problem. That's like my burning desire. It's so hard for me to downshift, shut the F up, and just be present and fully listen and let the person go. Do you have any recommendations for that? Because I want to be present. I want to be there the whole time and just listen, but I'm just chomping at the bit to I don't know if it's ego. I want to get in there, but it's I got the answer for you. What do you guys recommend to deal with this This
is therapy 101, guys. I like this. Bring it on.
Does a chemical imbalance? Do I need Prozac? What do you guys think?
Who do I send the invoice to?
Send it to my wife.
It's his question, bro. So
I would definitely, there is a lot to be gained from all the information that they're talking about. And you may be in a position to think that they're stalling or you'd like to get to the point, but they're telling you this for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't want you to start connecting dots that are not there. However, take in all the information and you could put a few ideas up as to why they might be mentioning this stuff. There is a reason. It's usually not just because they're long-winded and it takes them a while. They're usually communicating something else that is going on. And by giving them that chance and just taking it all in, you're going to learn more about them and their situation that is going to help you with the deal.
What I will tell you is that when we get all fired up and we want to jump in there, the simplest thing to do is to actually use your brain chemistry to your advantage by taking a deep breath in through your nose. It actually relaxes your system so you don't have that fight or flight response, which is the adrenaline that you're talking about. You get a rush from helping people. You get
I'm afraid I'm going to forget what I'm going to say, though. That's the other piece to it. So there's it's a double-edged sword kind of thing.
Well,
that's an excuse, bro.
No, it's true. No, it's not. It's not an excuse because I'm but then they're on to the next point. I'm I want to make sure I give them this because I feel like I'm offering valuable information, and I'm I don't want to lose that. And I'm you can't just. Here it's cool because you whip out a pen and write something down, but in a conversation, how rude would that be? I usually taking notes when you're talking to somebody, right?
So the first step is validating their emotion. So if they're expressing a problem or a frustration, it's first saying, that sounds incredibly frustrating. That alone allows the other person to feel fully heard before you give your unsolicited advice. Because if their emotion isn't validated, they're going to hang on to that and not care about your advice. So the first is you have to meet them at the emotion, saying, that sounds frustrating. I've been there. It's very confusing trying to sort through those deals. Can I offer you a piece of advice? And ask if they're open and willing to take the advice. And only when you get the yes, then you talk from your perspective, your experience, and share that advice. But many of us make the mistake of jumping right to the solution when the person in conversation actually just wanted to express their emotion and may already have the
Guilty.
solution. May not even be interested in solutions, but they just want to get something off their chest, right? We've all had that. Like, our boss frustrated us. Oh, our wife forgot to do something at home, and all of a sudden it's sticking in our head, and we just want to get the emotion out. But if you're not meeting them at the emotion and you're just firing back with your advice, then they're going to feel unheard, and oftentimes they're not going to take your advice.
And they're missing their value. The value is actually, I want to get this out. They don't need that, and they may already know the solution. They actually will get better from just getting it out, and you just stole, the relief or the value of the conversation from them.
And trust me, I still
my brain's evolving, Gino. Like I'm growing as a person as we speak.
My fiance laughs too, because she's like, I don't need your answers anymore, AJ. I know you have the answers.
just listen, dude.
I just wanted to tell you that my boss is annoying me. That's all that matters. I don't need to hear about emotional bids and what you would do in my situation.
So me and Jake would be like, so why are you asking us, bro? I mean,
for me, it's like, let's just not have the talk. Like, let's just not talk about it. Like, we're wasting time here. And I
can pick up the phone and ask Jake the question. Jake, I'm not going to go ask him. That's the funny thing, though. It's so funny just to think about that.
I get a mannequin of myself and be like, this is my listen doll.
I don't know. Where are we going to go with this? Before we get to the short answers, this is really important. Maybe, Johnny, you can answer this, because a lot of our students do this. They self-sabotage. Can you just give us some tips on how to stop self-sabotaging? Well, and we have these students who are amazing. Mike Petrocchi. I mean, they're such high-level students, and yet sometimes they say, I can't do it, or now's not the time, or I can't get the deal done, or I can't call the broker. Do you have any tips on just how to stop self-sabotaging yourself?
Yeah, and it's something that we all do, and we need to figure out the patterns in which we do it. If I know why, I can link it to the situation that I'm in. And I'm going to guess that you are putting a lot of your students into first-time situations where they're overwhelmed. Maybe there's a deal on the line. Maybe you're moving them into a place in business that they haven't walked in before, and they're overwhelmed with everything that is going on. A lot of times it is these situations, tension and pressure, or being overwhelmed with information, that cause us to collapse in on ourselves. And the way out is to just start beating ourselves up. Now, if you can link it to that, and oh, you know what? Every time that I'm doing something that I'm not versed in, I'm going to attack myself. Okay, well, now that you know that, you can prepare yourself before walking in. Number two, after having that knowledge, understanding those patterns, is being able to build up some coping mechanisms that will help you through this, which is, for one, to be able to have some self-compassion. I'm doing things that I'm not familiar with. I'm going to be hard on myself. It's okay. I've done these things before. I just have to work through slowly. Once I start gaining an idea of what's going on, I'll be fine.
And I want to add an exercise. This is a little woo-woo, but I work with young athletes.
We love the woo here. Bring
on
the woo.
Same frustration. And excuses that stay in your head carry more weight than excuses that are expressed. So here's a simple drill. Set up 3 chairs. In the first chair, sit down, and I want you to say out loud all those excuses, why you can't do it, why it's too much work, why it's so frustrating, and literally verbalize them. The second chair, sit in the second chair, and I want you to say all the reasons that you should be doing it, all the reasons why it matters to you. Now, here's where the magic happens. Sit in the third chair, and now play therapist for the guy in the first chair, and listen to him and respond with compassion. If you were an 8-year-old child and you were telling someone, oh, I can't, oh, I don't know enough, how would you respond? Would you call that person an idiot? Would you call that kid a loser?
You stupid 8-year-old.
Exactly. Express that same compassion, but verbalize it. It's so important, because if it stays in our head, that's when it gets the self-sabotage loop, and it's tougher to break. When we verbalize those excuses, they carry much less weight, and we actually feel lighter. We're like, oh, I just had to express it, get the excuse out of my system. And at the end of that 3-chair exercise, you're going to feel empowered and excited to do whatever it was that you were making excuses and sabotaging yourself.
And I don't know where people have got this idea that they shouldn't have these feelings, and that they should be able to to push away any negative thought. We all go through this by learning about yourself and why you tend to do it and the situations that you're in that lead to this. It allows you to prepare for them and build up some strategies. Also, to go along with AJ, is we talk about journaling constantly at the Art of Charm. It's an opportunity for you to learn about yourself. If you don't learn about yourself, you're constantly going to find yourself in the same situations over and over and over again and beating yourself up. I don't think, and you guys were talking about media, our media does not do a good job in portraying people working on their own issues and problems and learning about themselves. If we would see Brad Pitt being Marcus Aurelius and journaling about his day, perhaps we'd see a line at the CVS of people buying journals. And this is so important, where our emotional makeup is extremely complex, but also extremely basic. Mm-hmm. And if you're unwilling to disseminate it and look at all the different pieces and just talk to yourself about how you're feeling, you're not going to be able to get any control over it.
So you have first one, figure out the patterns. The second one, being able to build coping mechanisms. Any other steps we can go through?
And just give yourself an opportunity to work through, have some compassion for yourself.
And reward the small victories.
Yes. Okay.
So many of us think of life as these big leaps, but it's actually not. It's small wins that compound over time. Mm-hmm. You know, you've heard the phrase, get 1% better every day. It's not looking for the massive leaps, because when you are continually improving, those massive leaps will come with little effort. But it can feel really daunting if you can't see the small wins that are happening on a daily basis. And I use the analogy, I was fortunate enough to be with some buddies in Bali, and I was hiking a volcano. And we were exhausted about halfway up the volcano. We wanted to give up. We wanted to quit, because all we were doing was staring at the peak, and it felt so far away. And our guide in that moment of wanting to quit said, let's just take a seat and let's look back at how far you came. And just taking a second and looking back at what yesterday was like, what last week, what last year was like for you, working on these skills, building out deals, working on growing your investments. You've come so far, you just don't realize it, because you have this tunnel vision towards the peak and what other people have achieved. So the journaling and just celebrating those small wins, you know, you called more people in a day and you prospected more than you thought possible. Well, go out to a nice dinner, treat yourself, allow yourself to feel good that you took action to get you closer to that goal.
I love that. Jake, before we go to the short answers, I just want everyone to write this down, because this is truly important. Your behaviors are belief driven, and that's really important. If you can believe that you can do something, you're not going to self-sabotage yourself, because you've got the idea that I can do it. And it's all about, you know, what we believe in. And I love that 3-chair process. That's great. You can get that out there.
Johnny says this all the time. We can't think our way into acting, but we can act our way into thinking. You can't find the motivation by sitting there and thinking your way into going to the gym, picking up the phone and prospecting, going out and knocking on doors. You can't think your way into doing that. But you get outside your door, and all of a sudden you're taking that first action step, and you're going to find the motivation. You're going to get fired up. And it happens time and time again in any area of your life where you're feeling self-sabotaging, when you're feeling that you're holding yourself back. Wrestling with those thoughts, trying to fight those emotions, takes a lot more effort than taking that first step, getting outside of your house, changing your environment.
I love that, guys. Jake, just another thing that I learned from Jim Quick in his book. I think the other thing to couple that up with is reasons reap rewards. I think everyone needs to have reasons. I'm going through this, I don't want to say cleansing, but through this diet of not having any carbohydrates. So I'm on day like 18 or 19. I don't want to say self-sabotaging, starting, stopping, but I didn't put enough reasons behind it. And, you know, you're turning 50 years old. Stop making the excuses that you can't lose weight. Just have enough reasons and play it out. And my belief is I can do it. If that person down the street can do it, and I see people in their 60s and 70s looking jacked, anybody can do it. So those two, having enough reasons will allow you to reap the rewards. And is it easy? No, because I've got 6 kids. They're all eating pasta. Everyone's going out. We're going out to have wood brick oven. And I'm a pizza guy.
Gino,
So
just have some pizza and go buy a Ferrari.
dude,
all right, man. You're making it too hard on yourself.
This is my identity, Jake. I used to make the best pizza in the world. I'm Italian. I'm making gnocchi homemade. You know how hard that is? So it's part of my identity, right? So I'm trying to shed my identity, but I have enough reasons where I don't want to get sick. I don't want to have hypertension. I don't want to have a heart attack. I can, and the idea that that's my behavior, if I believe that I can take control of it, I'll be able to set apart. But you have to understand where your identity is coming from. We could do a whole podcast on this.
He's looking for more struggle. Life's getting too easy for him. He's like, I got to find something hard to do here.
That's right, bro.
So, all right, now let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor.
Are you looking for ways to improve your life?
Here at Jake and Gino, our mission is to empower students through financial education and the vehicle of multifamily investing.
Yes, Jake. We agree that a person with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
We've created our proprietary 3-step framework, buy right, manage right, and finance right, that we teach to our community. This framework, along with education, our one-on-one mentorship, on-site boot camps, and the amazing community has propelled our students to massive success.
We've all been there. We've had so many students that have been able to shift their mindset, overcome limiting beliefs, and set a clear path to achieve their goals. Whether you're currently fixing and flipping, wholesaling, or buying single-family rentals, and you know that multifamily investing is the right vehicle for you, I encourage you to visit jakeandgino.com/apply to schedule your complimentary consultation with our team. And I want to let you know this isn't a high-pressure sales call. It's really just a discovery call to get to know each other better and see if we're a good fit for working together. And if for any reason we're not a good fit, our team has tons of resources we will share with you to help you along your journey.
If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels, go to jakeandgino.com/apply and schedule your call now. All right, we are back. Gang, we're going to help the folks right now, okay? So we have a lot of students coming through the program, and the big pain point is lack of credibility and experience with brokers. Now, there's a lot of posturing that goes on in the broker community. They won't call students back. You know, if you're a new investor, they want to deal with the person that's a sure thing, quick close, going to get the deal done. Any tips for breaking through that posture barrier, that posture wall that brokers put up, and start to build rapport and build relationships in order to, you know, have a shot at more deals and to get more deals done when starting out?
Well, the first thing is propinquity builds trust.
Now, is that a pill or is that some kind of diet program? I don't know what
Let's talk about easy way out right now, bro.
Sorry. We want to hear the answer, but we got to understand what that first word is.
Familiarity. So
okay, there we go.
Just having your face out there and showing up at the events and being around the broker enough, with enough touch points of them seeing your face and seeing you in the community, and that familiarity is going to open the door first and foremost. It's just showing up to everything.
That pesky guy that just doesn't go away. I got to give in to him.
Big shout out to Nico Salgado on the podcast up in New York. He's doing this. He's on all the LinkedIns. He's flying down to Tampa. He's talking to the brokers. He's engaged in the community. He's doing everything you're saying, AJ. And now if a student has a deal in Tampa, they're going to Nico because Nico is the expert without even doing a deal. So, and he's only been in this for like 6 months, and it's already life change for him. And now he's got more commitment, and now he's starting a podcast, and he's doing YouTube videos. And everyone's
he was just on the phone with Mike T a minute ago. Mike T's in the other room right now as coach, and he's just on the phone. So
it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. It's amazing. So being ubiquitous, or being out there, and you don't have to know everything. Like AJ said, start a podcast and leverage out the other experts, and you all of a sudden position yourself with them. So I didn't mean to steal that, AJ.
Yeah, we got more coming here. We just got the first. You're getting the G dad juiced up.
Dude,
over
that's
here.
That's because I'm like that. Just not a light bulb, man. I mean, the light bulbs take a little while to fire up in the brain, but when they do, I make the
lack of carbs, man.
I'm telling you, bro. You're telling me, man. It's killing me, but it's gonna be worth it, right? It'll be worth it.
Absolutely.
Just to add to that really quickly, with all the technology at our hands, people tend to forget about nature and allowing nature to do its work. Technology may be able to speed up some things, but nature is always going to do its job. And this goes to play with AJ was saying about just being there, allowing nature to take care of familiarity and building trust through showing up.
I love that.
Tough word to say, isn't it? Familiarity. I've always struggled with that one. So AJ, I didn't know if you had like a second and third point to that. I feel like I want to make sure we're extracting all the juice out of here. Was there anything else to that, or did you want to?
Well, I also want to add, really putting yourself in the broker's shoes and thinking about what their frustrations are and what are they looking for, and finding ways that you could add value. A lot of this stuff is just a little counterintuitive, but those who are constantly adding value and not looking for, well, how can I get this deal done? How can I get in front of the broker, and offering up knowledge, information, or just celebrating them and the deals they've worked on, and letting them know that you really dig what they're accomplishing right now is going to put you on their radar in a positive way. And when you have all these touch points, right? And I think Grant Cardone probably does this the best for all of your listeners who follow along. He's everywhere. Every platform you are seeing him, and that's building familiarity without even going to these events. And it's the same thing. If you can be everywhere, and that broker is going to be seeing you online and seeing you at the events and talking to other brokers, naturally they're going to be like, well, I may not know what AJ is up to, but I'm starting to build trust without even thinking about it subconsciously.
That's awesome.
Omnipresence. All right, we're going to go to a little bit, we'll go a little woo for you guys, because I feel like we got a woo connection here. Let's start with you, Johnny. What is your best habit for success? Something that you do on a daily or weekly basis?
Wow. There's so many answers to that. I think first and foremost is to live through your core values. Find out what your core values are and find ways to engage in them fully every day. If you do that, you will feel great. You will feel like you are winning the day. When you feel like you're winning the day, that everything else falls in place. You're able to go to sleep easy at night. You're able to wake up excited about the day. All of these things lead you to your goals. How do you get to those core values? Think about the life worth fighting for that you would like to be enjoying in 5 years, and then backwards engineer 5 core values that if you engage in every day will get you there. For myself, and learning that trick, it changed everything. It changed how I attacked the day. It changed how I felt. And for myself, my core values are health, which is going to take care of eating, sleeping, and waking up. Creativity, making sure that I'm creating every day. We spend way too much time consuming and not enough time
producing.
Absolutely. A ceaseless learner, humor, and mindfulness. I have also arranged my schedule that I have engaged in all 5 of those core values by noon. So anything else that tips over into those the rest of the day is icing on the cake.
Love that.
How does clarity play a role in that?
Certainly understanding what those core values need to be, and being clear on what it is that life worth fighting for looks like in 5 years. And I say a life worth fighting for because you should be fighting for it. If not, you're not going to enjoy the life that you're creating for yourself. It should be something. And I say 5 years because that's just enough time to allow things to compound, and also allows you to wake up excited. And it should be something that fires you up, that if you engage in those core values that day, that's one step closer to that life worth fighting for. It all ties together.
Yeah, I think that, and what I was, kind of getting at there was that self-understanding allows you to stop, living in a world of where you're trying to discover, and you can, live in a world of more intention, I think is what I'm getting at. Because you understand what you're about and what you're striving for, versus like, where's the road taking me? Where's the map going?
It allows you to say no and stay focused. Yeah. And many of us, when we're starting out in business, we're trying to pivot our career, side hustling. There's umpteen roads we could take. But if we're not focused, we're not going to succeed. So core values allow you to dial in that focus and say no to things and create a not to-do list. Things that are just firm no's for you. So you have clarity instead of being pulled into Instagram marketing, and all of a sudden you got to rebuild a LinkedIn, and now you're doing a webinar and you're going to a conference. There's so many different ways to skin a cat, but if you're not actually engaging in those 5 core values every single day, you're going to lose focus. You're going to only be able to put so much effort and energy, and then you're going to struggle.
I absolutely love clarity. AJ, what is a tip or an experience in your business that you'd like to share with everybody? A tip for scaling a business?
So,
and it can't be core values because you guys just hit it.
When it comes to scaling the business, for us, it came down to delegation. And many of us feel like we're the best at everything, and we need to have our fingers in everything and touch everything that we create and our business creates. But in actuality, that really slows you down. So identifying your absolute strengths and then figuring out all the time sinks that are not in your zone of genius, the things that you're not good at, that you end up spending 3-4 times the amount of time that someone else who was good at that job could get it done. And the more ruthless you are with delegating those tasks that suck energy, suck time, where you're forced to learn and you're spending more time on Google and actually doing the task itself, you're going to free up the bandwidth to operate in your zone of genius that creates those big wins in your business. And trust me, I still struggle this 15 years in of passing things over, bringing on someone to help with social media. I want to write the caption. Oh, I want to make sure that I see the photo. But at the end of the day, those small tasks also compound and hold me back from doing the high level strategy that the business needs, the 3-year plan, and figuring out what it's actually going to take to get there. So delegate, delegate, delegate.
I'm going to do
there's
this.
Not a single
I'm going to do that, right, Jake?
Well, no, I was just going to say there's not a single task or work action that gets done within our company that I'm the best at. And I fully believe, like, something that's done on the daily, like, stuff that we're doing, there's not a single thing that I would say there's definitely someone in the organization that's better than me at every single one of those tasks. I have no doubt in my mind. So, all right, Johnny, give us a book recommendation.
For your students, The Art of Possibility. I think it does a wonderful job in giving you the idea of the language that you use and how important it affects your mindsets and actions. And we need our mind. You were talking about clarity. We need our mind to be working at its best. The language that we use, the mindsets that we use to go about our daily tasks. The Art of Possibility changed the way I spoke, and it changed the way I went into learning new things, and it changed the way I went into the day.
All right, Gino, you got that one?
I did. Art of Possibility.
He's got it now.
Got a bunch of notes.
Read every book known to man, so I think you stumped him on that one. All right, AJ, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you guys?
Well, first, check out our podcast, the Art of Charm podcast. That's the absolute best way to get all of these social skills tips. We have toolbox episodes each and every month where Johnny and I spend an hour going deep with the science, unpacking the psychology around connecting and building better relationships with anyone. And whether that's in business, whether that's socially, or whether that's in your dating life, these skills are so important. And I would say the podcast is the best place to start. Other than that, you'll find Johnny going live every weekday on all of our social platforms. You can find us at The Art of Charm.
Is there an Art of Charm book too? It's a great name.
Not yet.
You guys got to get on that one. I think that would sell. Yeah, very good. All right, Gino, what else you got for us today?
Well, I want everyone to take out a piece of paper and a pen because we got some notes to take because we have to wrap this up. But I think there's so much value in this show. First thing is, in networking, don't make it about yourself. Be more generous. Go out there. The 5 levels of listening. The first one is the self. The second one is to be content with the other person sharing. The third one is the context. The fourth one is what is unsaid. And the fifth one is the intent. I want everyone to write those down because that's really important. Start working on your listening skills. These are all skills that we can learn. We're not born with these skills. We can learn them. The self-sabotage part, Jake, was phenomenal for me. I love it. The first one is to figure out your pattern, that overwhelmingness. I think the next one is being able to build coping mechanisms. Have that self-compassion. You're okay. We all go through this. We're all winging it and figuring it out. Don't think that Brad Pitt has got a great life. He's got a lot of crap going on also, being married to that chick. Whew. Work on
Which one?
It. All of them, exactly. Okay. So figure out what we do with Jake and Gino. We have a student tracker. Like AJ said, celebrate those wins. right? But also have a student tracker that you've done coaching calls, that you've actually analyzed deals, that you've walked properties, that you've come to events. At the end of the month, you'll see that you've done 15 tasks. You may not have hit the ultimate goal, which is the result, but you're going to fall in love with the process of it. So that's what I think is going to help you with the self-sabotage. And I like you, the third one is give opportunity to work through it. Give yourself that opportunity and always reward yourself with those small victories. And what Johnny said, ultimately,
pizza,
I love,
right?
Can't do that. Maybe
Okay.
gluten-free, but not even that, bro.
Okay.
And if you're going to, you know what? Have the real thing. Either, you know what I mean? Either have a real turkey or don't go to the turf turkey. Just go with the real deal, right? So then that last one, Jake, before I really need to touch on this because this is important for us, finding out your core values and living through them. As Johnny eloquently said, it's important. And that's working on yourself.
Don't fluff them either. If they're not authentic or real to you, move on to.
And they're not a marketing package, not a marketing idea. And for us, Jake, what I've been really thinking about the last couple of weeks, why do we create Jake and Gino? And for me, it's important. People with financial intelligence can change the world for the better. People with financial intelligence can change the world for the better. And that, to me, is the essence of what Jake and Gino is doing. And if we have financial intelligence, we can have an empowering life. We can make better decisions. We become producers, not what the marketers want us to become as consumers. We know the difference between personal and business debt, and we can live a more empowering life and make better decisions. So that's why
open and honest conversations too. So much stuff is like, foo-foo. It's BS. But
so that is what I get up in the morning for. That's why I'm here on my 50th birthday, because there's no other place I'd want to be other than talking to two guys who are making it happen. And that's why my core value is before 12 o'clock, I have a freaking amazing day. My life wasn't always like this, but I got lucky. I met you 10 years ago and everything changed for me. And that's what I want everyone to do. And the reason why I'm here is my financial intelligence allowed me to be here. It allowed me to make the money that I needed to make to be able to help others. So that's what our core values are. Anything from you,
Gino,
Jake? Yeah, bro.
A sincere happy birthday, bro.
Thanks, bro.
Beginning, I love you.
Right on.
I love you too,
happy
bro.
birthday.
Thank you.
AJ, Johnny, guys, thank you so much. And we really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us.
you.
This was awesome.